All right, welcome in. Hour number 2, Hanging with Hester, presented by Richard Honda. Jumbo, Ronnie Rance, the birthday girl, Happy Gilmore, Paul O'Neill, all here with me on a Monday afternoon. Katherine Terrell joins us now, of course, Saints reporter for The Athletic. So, Katherine, I've got to ask you, do you prefer Katherine or Kat?
I go by either one, really. I
Oh,
guess
come on, you got to have a preference. See, I'm Jacob, but I like to go by Jake.
Well, I just tell everyone, I'm like, call me whatever you want to call me. I guess I go by Katherine on the air, but other than that, people usually call me Kat.
All right, so
Or
you're going to be Switzerland about it. I'm just going to call you Kat. I like Kat. I think that one
works for me.
All right, there we go. Hey, I wanted to have you on today because obviously Drew Brees has made a commitment to come back to the New Orleans Saints. That's exciting, and I know it's got to make, first off, your job a lot easier during the offseason, knowing that you got the quarterback put into place. But there's also that Taysom Hill aspect of things where he's going to be a restricted free agent. A lot of Saints fans want to know kind of what is the plan for him and what's the plan after Drew Brees. And so if you had to put your best guess on it, if you were, the GM of the New Orleans Saints and you're trying to deal with Taysom Hill, what do you think happens?
I definitely could see them putting a first-round tender on him. I think that Sean Payton pretty much said that's what they were going to do during a radio interview the other day. And it kind of makes sense to me. You put a first-round tender on him, and you're basically just kind of daring another team. Well, if you want him so badly, give us a first-rounder. And if that's the case, that would be great for the Saints because I have to think they're still maybe looking at quarterbacks in this draft. Even if they do retain Hill and obviously Brees, the contract has to be worked out, but that seems like a formality at this point. So the thing is, I don't know if Taysom Hill is a franchise quarterback. I think the Saints think that he is. They've been talking him up for the last few years. So I think the best option probably is you bring Brees back, you keep Taysom, and then you sign a veteran quarterback or some sort of buffer and kind of go from there.
Kat, what is going to change, if anything, with Taysom Hill's role? If he does come back with the Saints, you have Drew Brees in place because a lot of people think, okay, how can you have your true backup quarterback if Teddy Bridgewater isn't back, lead blocking on powers, covering kickoffs, catching passes, those type of things that make Taysom Hill one of the most exciting players in the NFL. But if he is your true number 2 backup, will he have the same game plan in every single contest?
That's why I think if they sign Brees and sign Hill, they would have to get a better backup, or else he's basically not going to be able to play much. We saw that last year when Brees got hurt. Hill's role was so restricted. I mean, his snaps severely went down, and that's because they couldn't afford to get him hurt because they wouldn't have anyone else after Bridgewater at that point. But it just kind of depends on, I guess, how they view him. Do you want to pay him his restricted free agent tender, which is around $5 million, just to be a backup? They did it with Bridgewater, and they were fine paying him $7 million and paying Brees. Obviously, we saw the importance of having a backup, but I think that if you put him in the backup role, are you losing what makes Hill special? What makes him the guy everyone's talking about? So I don't know. I just can't see them going into the season and just using him as a backup. I think that they really would be losing a special player if they did that. You know what I'm saying? Because then there's all these things that suddenly they can't do with them. So I would not be surprised if he's technically the third quarterback again this fall.
I'll tell you what, Katherine, the New Orleans Saints this offseason is probably one of the more interesting offseasons they've had in a while because of the lack of cap space. You got all 3 quarterbacks that are technically not signed. But beyond the quarterback situation, which we talk so much about, what are the other, I guess, free agent signings that the Saints have to deal with that you think they will absolutely return to New Orleans?
I thought that one of the most important guys they need to re-sign is Von Bell, but they might not view it that way. They might think, hey, we can go with our young guys or maybe target a safety in the draft. I don't know. So that's going to be the most interesting one. But, it's funny. It's like you said, we've talked about the quarterback so much. It's almost as if the other players don't exist the last few weeks. I think offensively, maybe the one that's going to be most talked about is Andres Pete, but I don't think that's a must re-signing. I think Nick Easton played just fine for Pete, and Easton's going to make about $5 million next year, so I can't see him making $5 million and being a backup. So that might be a guy they let go. But, outside of the quarterbacks, it's one of those years where there's just not a guy essential to the team. Now, others might disagree, but I really think it all starts and ends with the quarterbacks this year.
Kat, this is still a really young and deep New Orleans Saints roster, a very talented roster. They've been so active, though, in the draft over the last couple of seasons. Where do you think they lean in this draft? Obviously, they're picking late in the draft like they do most times, but we've seen them be aggressive and trade up. Do you think there's a position of need so big that they will make some movements there in the draft?
I think their biggest need is probably wide receiver. I think you could argue maybe an interior offensive lineman, but I think wide receiver is pretty much of paramount importance at this point. If you go look at the stats, their wide receiver with the second most yards after Michael Thomas was Ted Ginn. Now, I think that they maybe view it differently inside the organization depending on who you're talking to. Peyton probably wants wide receiver, and Loomis probably thought, well, we can get by with what we had. But it's a deep wide receiver class. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they go after. Maybe they'll sign someone in free agency, but I can't see them signing a very expensive big-name free agent wide receiver while they're already paying Michael Thomas. But, it could surprise me. There are a few intriguing guys out there, but I really think this position might come down to the draft.
All right, let's just make this happen, Kat. Let's go ahead and get Justin Jefferson,
Absolutely.
the New Orleans Saints together. They can draft him in the first round. They probably don't even need to move. That's about where he's projected to go anyways. We can go ahead and throw away the Saints don't draft LSU guys. Jefferson can go in and be a perfect number 2.
I think they should draft all LSU guys.
Thank you.
Let's make this happen this year. All LSU draft 2020.
That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? That'd be
I would be all for it. When I went to Cincinnati, they had 4 LSU guys, and then one by one, they all left. Just thinking, wait, where'd everyone go? Why can't we keep some LSU guys around for me to write about? But that would be pretty cool.
There's a lot of talk that this is possibly the deepest wide receiver group that's really ever existed. I mean, it's 25 players that could be drafted in the first 4 rounds, so I don't know if the Saints have to move per se to get one that they really, really like. But, of course, we'd all love it to be Jefferson. Quarterback-wise, when you look at the possibility of them staying where they're at, is there any other quarterback really outside of the word love that the Saints are loving on? Because that's all we hear.
Well, I would be so intrigued if Tua was still around within reach of the Saints to get him. Now, I know it's probably not going to happen, but stranger things have happened. I just think that would be the perfect scenario. He wouldn't have to play this year. Then you could figure out the future with Brees next year. He could sit and get healthy and learn under Brees. I mean, that would be such an ideal situation. But I think he's probably going to go off the board pretty early, injury or no injury. But that would be interesting. So I'm kind of intrigued by the draft. I know it's pretty far out, but there's a lot of possibilities that the Saints could end up going here. So it'll be an interesting one.
Katherine Terrell, the Athletic, is our guest here on Hangin with Hester. Hey, you did spend a lot of years there in Cincinnati covering the Bengals. Obviously, Joe Burrow assumed going to be the number 1 pick to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Small hands and all.
Small hands. Don't even get me started on that. But, look, we all know kind of the ownership of the Bengals, and some teams do it a little bit different than others. The teams I was on, the Chargers and Broncos, it was night and day. So the Bengals have kind of a bad rap. We all know that. What do you think happens there? Do you think that Joe Burrow would actually not go and play for the Cincinnati Bengals?
I really don't, because I don't think it's a situation. I know he said he has leverage, but I don't think he does. You can't out-stubborn Mike Brown. If he tried to, I would think Mike Brown would make him sit the year out of spite. I mean, and I'm not kidding. It's just really not a guy you want to get into a standoff with. It's the one owner I could see not backing down. So, I don't know. I mean, he's from the area. His parents would be 3 hours away. I just wouldn't be surprised. And everyone, I know the Bengals are run differently and all of that. But God, the way people talk about this team, you would think that they haven't won a game in years, and they were in the playoffs 3 seasons ago. So, it's not as if they haven't had any success. They just haven't had postseason success, and they were a minute and 17 seconds away from having that game won. So, it's interesting. I don't know. Mike Brown doesn't run the day-to-day team anymore. It's actually his daughter and her husband. So will things change a lot for them in the coming years? No, but they are changing, albeit very slowly. So
Last one for you, Kat, and I do appreciate your time. Do you think the Bengals, and I know you cover the Saints now, but you spent so much time there, could you see them kind of hitting reset? Andy Dalton would be gone. They trade A.J. Green, some of the names that we put together with the Cincinnati Bengals over the last 3, 4, 5 seasons. Can you see them hitting reset starting over with Joe Burrow?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't see them starting over, but I guess you could say it is a new era. Kind of like when A.J. Green and Andy Dalton came in together in 2011. I mean, people forget they were actually really, really bad the year before, and that draft just turned things around. But no, I mean, they actually, I was surprised they were so bad this year because I thought they had some talent in quite a few areas. And I mean, I think A.J. getting hurt A.J. got hurt, their first round draft pick got hurt, and everything just kind of sprawled out of control. But no, it'll be interesting. They're not going to make wholesale changes. I'll tell you that. I mean, they might say they'll do more in free agency, but it's not. They're not going to be the Saints. They're not going to be the team that signs the splash pick day one. So if people are expecting that, probably not going to happen.
All right, she is Kat Terrell. You can follow her on Twitter, Kat_Terrell, Saints reporter for The Athletic. Does a great job. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, there she is, Kat Terrell of The Athletic.